Just Cheesy the Podcast, presented by Just Cheesy Productions.
Hi there, I'm your host, Fondue.
I'm Cheesy.
In this week's episode, we're talking all about cottage cheese.
Ooh.
We're going to learn what cottage cheese is,
Okay.
how it's made, and how you can make it yourself at home.
Whoa.
We're going to be talking about toppings like fruit
Yum.
and tuna
What?
and mustard and ketchup.
What? Why?
And of course, we're going to tell a very cheesy joke.
Yeah, joke.
Stay tuned for episode 88 on Just Cheesy the Podcast. I don't know about you, Cheesy, but I like cottage cheese.
Yeah, me too.
But if you're like me, I wasn't quite sure what it was or how it was made.
Nope.
According to pinkvilla.com, there's an article called Unveiling the Science Behind the Health Benefits of Cottage Cheese.
Ooh.
They describe cottage cheese as a soft, fresh cheese
Yum.
that's not aged or ripened.
Ooh.
Typically, it's not very strong in flavor.
Right.
Although sometimes it's described as sour or acidic.
Yeah.
The article also goes on to talk about the nutritional value of cottage cheese.
Ooh.
It's high in protein, calcium, vitamin B complex,
Whoa.
and vitamin A.
Wow.
They also mention selenium, riboflavin, phosphorus, and folate.
Whoa.
Well, now that we know what it is, it's interesting to find out how it's made.
Yeah.
According to CaliforniaDairyPressroom.com, they believe cottage cheese is the first cheese found in America.
Really?
They explain that Europeans made fresh farmhouse cheeses with naturally soured milk.
Ooh.
And they believe the immigrants to America brought the tradition of fresh cheese making with them.
Wow.
And we're talking all the way back in the 1800s.
Holy cow.
Cottage cheese is made by adding an acid to pasteurized milk. It causes separation of the milk solids from the whey.
Like Little Miss Muffet eating her curds and whey.
I don't think so, because cottage cheese is made by separating the curds from the whey.
Okay.
She was eating a bowl of curds and whey. Anyway, after the acid is added to pasteurized milk, the curd is formed.
Oh.
It's then cut into pieces, which allows the whey to drain from the solid curds.
No way.
It says the curds are further cooked and pressed gently to expel more whey.
No way.
They are then rinsed and salted.
Ah.
It says that in order to store cottage cheese, it's closed in a container in the refrigerator.
Makes sense.
Cottage cheese is stamped with a sell-by date.
Okay.
This date is how long a retail store can keep the product for sale on a shelf.
Ooh.
Of course, this should go without saying,
Yeah.
but if any mold forms on the top of your cottage cheese,
Ew.
or anywhere in your cottage cheese for that matter, you should discard it immediately.
Yeah.
And there are 4 types of cottage cheese. One is called creamed cottage cheese.
Ooh.
It contains at least 4% milk fat, comparable to whole milk.
Ooh.
Low-fat cottage cheese is made up of a half, 1.5, or 2% milk fat.
Okay.
Non-fat cottage cheese contains no more than half a gram of milk fat per serving.
Right.
And baker's cheese or farmer's cheese is a form of cottage cheese where most of the liquid has been pressed out of the cheese.
Wow.
Dairies that produce cottage cheese are not our sponsor.
Nope.
But when they are, the ad will go right here. Have you ever wanted to listen to the web?
Yeah.
Well, Newsly makes that possible.
They do.
They're an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android.
Super app.
You can listen to trending articles on the web on topics that you choose and get them read to you in a natural human voice.
What kind of topics?
Sports,
Cheese?
tech, business, science.
Cheese?
I'm sure there's even cheese.
Yay.
They even have an entire section for podcasts.
Are we there?
Of course we are.
Ooh.
It's one of my new favorite podcast apps. They even have digital radio.
Holy cow.
Just go to www.newsly.me to download it free.
Whoa.
Or use the link in the description. If you use the promo code CHEESY,
Cheesy.
that'll get you 1 month free premium subscription.
Yay. Newsly.
Now, back to the podcast. According to cheesemaking.com, you can make your own cottage cheese.
Whoa.
You would use 1 gallon of skim or 1% milk,
Okay.
1 packet of mesophilic culture, and
Okay.
8 to 10 drops of single-strength liquid rennet.
Okay.
This website includes the rest of the directions to make the cheese.
Okay.
You also have the ability to buy the rennet and the cultures.
Woohoo.
But if you're like me
Yep.
and you don't have cultures or rennet available easily,
Nope.
you can follow this next recipe. And we've actually made this before on the show, but we've actually pressed the curd curds together and made a more solid farmer's cheese.
Yeah, we did.
According to housewifehowtos.com, you're going to take a gallon of whole milk, 3/4 of a cup of white vinegar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and you can optionally use 3 tablespoons of heavy cream.
Okay.
You heat the milk to 190 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
You remove from the heat, you pour in the vinegar, and you stir.
Sure.
You cover and let rest for 30 minutes.
Okay.
The cheese starts to curdle and makes curds. You're going to spoon the solids from the pot into a lined colander. You're going to gather the cloth tightly together. And you're going to hold that in one hand and run cold water over your ball of cheese, kneading and squeezing it with your other hand until the cheese is cool.
Okay.
You dump it out into a bowl and you use a spoon to break up the small curds. And of course, both of these recipes are in our show notes. But if you're wondering, why did we do an entire episode on cottage cheese? Well, it goes back to TikTok. The internet has this renewed interest in cottage cheese. According to purewow.com, cottage cheese is pretty healthy and they have a couple of different recipes. In the first one, they actually whip the cottage cheese, they put it on sourdough, and they top it with raspberry chia jam. A lot of people are interested in chia bowls or playa bowls, but in this case, there's a cottage cheese breakfast bowl. Cottage cheese is used as your base. It's topped with fruit, chia seeds, and granola.
Yum.
Another suggestion they make here is with scrambled eggs.
Okay.
They add the eggs and the cottage cheese together, and they say it adds a touch of indulgent creaminess.
Yum.
SimpleNourished.living.com also gives some recommendations on how to eat your cottage cheese.
Okay.
They recommend topping it with fruit like banana and pineapple, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries.
Yummy.
They even recommend making a cottage cheese smoothie. They even say you can add it to muffins or pancakes to add protein to the mix.
Delicious.
According to BHG.com, they suggest making savory cottage cheese bowls.
Okay.
They, of course, use the cottage cheese as a base. They add some greens. They toss in some salsa. They add in a few hunks of bread. And there you go. You've got a bowl.
Okay.
And none of these seem too strange so far. This
Not
next
really.
one is from I'mHungryForThat.com, and they talk about lasagna.
Okay.
They're basically suggesting that cottage cheese is a good substitute for ricotta.
All right.
I've even seen people make macaroni and cheese with cottage cheese.
Yep.
But what about cottage cheese ice cream bars?
Okay.
According to feelgoodfoodie.net, you need frozen strawberries, cottage cheese, milk, maple syrup, vanilla extract, and graham crackers. You add all of the ingredients to a high-speed blender, you blend until smooth, and then you freeze.
Yum.
And according to culinaryshades.com, it can even be added to bread to up the protein.
Wow.
According to yahoo.com, it's even been added to cookie dough.
Yum.
And did you want to skip the mayonnaise in a tuna salad? Well,
Maybe.
according to supercook.com, you can. And you would add cottage cheese instead of mayo. This
Okay.
calls for canned tuna, cottage cheese, parsley, red onion, carrot, and thyme. At Tiffany McGee at TikTok was the inspiration for this entire episode.
Really?
She's got a weight loss plan that includes eating some different types of vegetables, some chicken sausage, and cottage cheese with mustard.
Ew, I don't think I'd like that.
I'm not sure I would like it either, Cheesy, but we have to stay open-minded to different types of food.
I guess.
Perhaps it just tastes like some sort of a veggie dip.
Sure.
And we talked about this next topping for cottage cheese back
Okay.
in season 1, episode 14, where we discussed President's Day and cheese.
Uh-oh.
According to myrecipes.com, former President Richard Nixon had some favorite breakfast items.
Oh, yeah.
He would have fresh fruit, wheat germ, and coffee.
Yep.
And of course, he would eat cottage cheese
Yeah.
garnished with either ketchup
Ew.
or black pepper.
And?
It doesn't seem to matter how you top your cottage cheese,
Yep.
but it's back in favor
Yeah.
and people are really enjoying it.
I'm ready for a joke, Fondue.
Okay, how did cottage cheese react when it found out it was just curds?
I don't know.
It said, no way.
Oh,
Get it? No
Yeah.
way, W-H-E-Y, way.
I get it. It was silly.
Well, I thought it was good and a little bit cheesy. Thanks for listening to Just Cheesy the Podcast, episode 88, Cottage Cheese.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of other episodes that you can go back and
A
listen
lot.
to, and if you wouldn't mind, we would love it if you would do that for us this week.
Stay cheesy, everybody.